least we have a good number of Cameroonians who actually think that the opposition in Cameroon actually care about their stomachs than the people. Do you agree? Do you care about your stomach? Other people?
For the past 30 years, the masses have not seen a veritable change that the earlier opposition parties have brought to the country, apart from the traditional and classical politics. And this is as a result of, as I can say, the tenacity syndrome, the consistency syndrome, the fact that most of the early opposition parties, they have national presidents, chairmen who created the parties, and they too stayed as long in the at the helm of these parties like the party that they are fighting against. And we also noticed that even some of these parties had internal democratic problems. They also lacked internal democracy, and the problem of coalition, the problem of coming to work together, because the regime actually designed this avenue of multiplicity of opposition political parties, so that those who could not withstand, those who could not persist, those who could not be consistent could be easily bought over. And it made it now for Cameroonians to conclude as such. I understand people would talk from that perspective. But at the same time, like I said earlier, I want to reiterate that the political narrative of this country is changing, and very consistent political parties and politicians are coming up. Because if we of the Popular Action Party, after having participated in the elections of 2011, Justice Paul Abine was the fifth out of the 23 candidates that ran for that year. And in the municipal and legislative elections of 2013, the councils of Lebialem, Akwaya, and some other areas were won when the late Agotabi swore that Paul would not take home anything. So from such experience, we had also noticed that the electoral body, the electoral code, the electoral system, and the institutions surrounding elections and the competitive rules are not favorable for the opposition parties, and taking part in any elections will be a negotiation with the ruling party or going to accompany them to have their president be maintained in power, or the parliamentary seats being shared as usual. That is why some of us, like the Popular Action Party, the Cameroon People's Party, the UPC Manidem, and some other parties, have decided to group ourselves in a movement, Stand Up for Cameroon, that we refuse that if all these things are not changed, there is no need for us to take part in any elections in Cameroon, because it is a charade and cannot yield any fruit. And also that refusing to take part in the presidential elections of 2018 is because we had already understood these mechanisms and will not want to be those parties that will be taken down in history as the people who deceived the Cameroonian persons when we know the truth. We also did not participate in the local elections of February 2020 because we know that going there is to accompany CPDM to share seats in the parliament, and no veritable change can be obtained with our participation of few seats that will not alternate anything, after having seen the example of SDF and the other opposition parties. That is just to tell Cameroonians that if some of these politicians and these political parties were out for their stomach, we would have gone to the parliament, have our own seats, and then we stay quiet and we have our immunities and so on. But if we are refusing, given the opportunities that are available, to go to these places to participate, it is the revolutionary method of reclaiming the people's power through the other means, the informal means, which is civil disobedience, boycotting elections. And that is the only language that a dictatorship regime understands. Because in an absolute monarchy that the present party and the president have put Cameroon into, there will be no way that you want to tell me you are a true politician, you are a sincere political party, you want to take part in the elections. Well, you are just going to accompany them, because that is what the time being has proved to us. 30 years is enough for someone to make analysis and conclusion. 30 years is 1/4 of a century. 30 years is a time long enough for us to conclude that the party in place and the government in place do not mean well for the Cameroonian people, and it is important that we look for other means to bring a veritable change in Cameroon. There is hope in opposition political parties in Cameroon. There is hope. We should understand that it takes a society a considerable period of time to deliver Matthias, to deliver true politicians, to deliver the Mandelas and the Dr. Kenneth Kwanda and the other African patriots and leaders that have really willingly give power to the other persons. But then we still continue in our own dimension and way, call on Cameroonians to understand that the responsibility of identifying genuine political parties, genuine politicians, supporting them and rallying behind them lies on their shoulders. Because if at the level of the masses, the Cameroonians, you keep criticizing, the opposition is unable, the opposition cannot, but the means for the opposition is limited, and the opposition needs only the support of the people, because we do not need but the money but the support. If the 25 million Cameroonians, who only 3 million took part in the 2018 elections, out of these 25 million, you understand that about 20 million and more of Cameroonians are not comfortable with the government in place, are not comfortable maybe with one or two opposition parties that are existing, but want change. Which means that the number of Cameroonians who want change but they don't know what to do are a greater chunk of the population, who need to identify a group of organizations that they need to work with. The organization must not necessarily be a political party. There are other countries that we have seen change come from civil society organizations, from youth movements, from groups, associations, freedom fighters, and so on. Even individuals champion it. So I want us to remove this demagogy, bias, prejudice, dogma of thinking that it is only the opposition political parties that will bring change in Cameroon. You, the Cameroonian, you can bring the change. And we need to understand that Africa is at that stage of the life cycle of its continent that we have to devise and dare to create what the white man has not taught us. The authenticity of the previous African society, the pre-colonial African society, where we could identify and solve the problems of our traditional society ourselves. The chiefs of the villages were monarchs. Most of the communities we have in Africa is ruled by chiefs whose leadership is hereditary. But when a chief fails to satisfy the local population, what happens? The villagers and the community get up and say, no, if that is the case, they are going to transfer leadership to another family that seems more honorable and is going to respect. That is it. It is the same thing here. We should not accuse people, keep saying this has done that, this has done that. Accusations will not help us. What is going to help us now is to work. And this work is mobilization. This work is citizenship education. This work is making people to understand their rights and what to respect and what not to respect. Because this government has put in the minds of Cameroonians, especially youths, that politics is meant for the old, that don't engage in politics is a dirty game, that don't engage in politics is dangerous, that don't this. All these are mechanisms to discourage youths and Cameroonians not to be a force to reckon with. And I know very well that there are two groups of people that are going to help Cameroon to have the change that is most desired. That is the youthful population of Cameroon and the women. The voice of the women in Cameroon and the youthful population are a group of people that when you look critically, when you see any action that these people put in place, it has a change. It has what we call an automatic effect on the government, because the government is so much afraid of the engagement of these two group of people in the political process of Cameroon. Therefore, we need to see all these elements and work this time around as a team to obtain this change. The future is bright. The time for CBDM and Mr. Mbia is over. Yes, it is over, and it is time for us to define the basis of a new Cameroon. Let us not miss that opportunity that was given to Cameroonians in the 1990s, and the National Reconciliation and Truth Conference and dialogue that was supposed to be held for all Cameroonians to define the way forward for a new Cameroon was replaced with a tripartite conference that was to the favor of the government in place. Anything now that is not reflecting the aspirations of the Cameroonian people, of the civil society organizations, of the base of the masses should not be taken to any table for any discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.